Morning, everybody. Um, got a few things for you. Thanks for working with us on a delay from last week. Had a crazy week, and also going to be out of town, so part of this week. So thanks for moving to today. A few things real quick, and then we'll get to most people like dogs more than humans, so we'll get to our newest addition to the PPD here shortly. But obviously, we all saw the news about what happened at Florida State, and certainly that was a sad day. And as a alum of Florida State, obviously know lots of friends and lots of family members who have sons and daughters over there. We were in the middle of a all-day training with all of our staff, and phones are going off, and so when you graduate from there, everybody is probably a degree of separation away from some impact. Whether it's folks that that had kids that were in the building at the time. There was some folks we know in those situations, and parents driving over right away, and so obviously a devastating situation, and certainly hits home with me because I've been in these buildings that we were talking about. I've been in the library, in the union, in my own college career, and certainly our thoughts and prayers go out to everybody affected, and not just the direct victims, but this is going to be something that impacts these kids understandably for a long, long time. So our hearts go out to them and all of the families affected by that tragedy. A quick update on Baptists. We still are in the bid protest period. I told you last time a protest has been filed, and we're working through that. We should see or get some clarity with that at some point this week. So no real new news other than we continue to work through that process. And then we do have our special guest in the corner over there. This is our K9 Jet, who is our latest addition to PPD family and the airport. He's a 16-month-old Chesapeake Bay Retriever and specializes in explosives detection. So if any of you media have any explosives on you, we can do a quick test run, see how well Jet is doing. He was purchased in partnership with the Pensacola International Airport and will work alongside Officer Travis Herron. And as PPD posted on Sunday on their social media, his official role will be ensuring the safety and security of the traveling public. He also will eat any type of concession that is left on the airport desk, or the airport seat. So please be mindful as you travel. I'll be traveling through the airport today, so we'll be on the lookout for him. So we are getting more and more dogs at Pensacola International Airport, and that's a good thing. So we're excited to have him. He will take your questions. I have no idea what he's going to say. While we're talking about the airport, the real ID requirements are coming up as well. Beginning May 7th, TSA will no longer accept state-issued ID cards that are not real ID compliant. So again, that's coming up on us very soon. I expect that we'll have some bumps in the road with that. Folks thinking they're going to get on a flight and the IDs aren't accepted. Please make sure that you check and make sure that your ID is real ID compliant. And how do you know? Look for the star in the upper corner of your license. And in Florida, it's in the upper right corner. In Alabama, it's in the upper left corner. So there should be a little star there. Make sure you check on that before you fly out. The traffic from the airport comparing March 25 to 24, we're up another 1.5% in the month of March, and cargo was up 92% last month with a year-to-date increase of 109% on the cargo side. So again, to continue to see growth and positive numbers on top of record numbers from in the history of the airport, of course, is a great thing. Then a few other things, and happy to take your questions. We also have Matt from the airport here if you have any specific airport questions. But just a few things you'll see on the upcoming City Council list or the agenda when it comes out later today, or later tomorrow, excuse me, would be we are doing the design builder selection for Element 2 Hangar 4 for the Pensacola International Airport, the ST project. If you recall, we have limited funds. It's really the final funding left over from close to a decade ago. As you can imagine, you guys have all reported on in many projects, costs increases, everything else. We're ultimately bidding out a modified Hangar 4. It won't be to the same extent or size and scope that was originally thought through, but we're maximizing the final available funding to build a version of a Hangar 4 that might be abbreviated from the overall original plan from several years ago. So you'll see the Wharton Smith was chosen with a total bid of $35.4 million, including contingency. And so it will be obviously a smaller facility than the other three hangars, and we're well underway with Hangar 3, of course, at the airport right now. The acceptance of an FDOT grant to begin design of the waterfront connector trail. What this is the funding from FDOT. We're certainly gracious for the design of the extension of the Sun Trail. You guys have reported on. I've talked about the bayfront aspect from the 3 Mile Bridge to the port. That is well underway. We have a meeting this week for community feedback. But we were also awarded $441,000 for the design of the rest of the Sun Trail that runs from the port to Bayou Chico, so down Main Street towards Pace Boulevard. And so that was yet another chunk of unfunded Sun Trail that we were advocating for when Senator Pasadomo invested north of $200 million into unfunded portions of the Sun Trail. We jumped right on, got with Senator Broxton, who was a huge help in this. So we've got phase 1 up and going, and looks very, very good to get constructed or start construction in 26. And so this is another encouraging sign that we'll get the design done for phase 2, which is, again, the port to Bayou Chico. So you'll see that on there as well. And let's see if there's any other highlights from... we've got some agenda items on the SHIP program, in the city and county's partnership with the SHIP program, so you'll see that. But just happy to take any questions that you have on that. Nothing necessarily kind of gets into the weeds of how we're going to operate the SHIP program with the city and the county and what we do together and what we might be doing separate now. But we continue to have a great partnership and SHIP with the county. It just might look a little bit different now on how we handle things. So anyway, that is everything I have, and Jet and I are ready to take your questions.
Mayor, first on the ST hangar, I guess, can you give a little bit more details about what's being scaled down exactly, and then how will that affect ST's ability to meet its milestones that it has with the Triumph Gulf Coast grant? Is there any talk of renegotiating that or anything like that?
Yeah, I would have to have Ken or Matt speak specifically to the exactly what's coming in or out. But what I can speak to, come on up, Matt, if you want. What I can speak to overall is, obviously, when you fund something in 2016 and it's 2025, as you can imagine, there becomes a significant shortfall in what 4 hangars were going to cost 8 years ago versus today. We saw that during COVID, and heck, COVID's been over for a couple of years now, and we continue to see these increases that make projects more expensive. So I think that we're at the fork in the road financially to say, well, which one would we rather do? Would we rather go back to all of the funders and go find that price increase, or will we want to have a discussion about modifying the scope of the project? And so it would be too early to say what job impacts, how many jobs can be filled. Those are going to be conversations with ST and eventually conversations with the funders. But we were going to have to go one direction or the other. It was either going to be go ask for another significant investment, or perhaps we would go back and say, well, instead of 1,700 jobs, it's I'm speculating, 1,600 jobs, whatever the case may be, but we don't have those final numbers yet in terms of exactly what we would formulate. But my guess is our conversation is going to be to the latter, is to say, hey, we're going to lower the job output, but we're not going to go back and ask for another $35 or $40 million that the shortfall that was created by time, really, from going from 2016 to 24. But I'll let Matt speak to any of the technical aspects of what is or what isn't in 4. So.
Hey, Jim. I would say also folks to include in that conversation are ST. Even though the hangar's smaller, we believe the production required to meet their contracts into the future will be met. As for actual jobs, I think they can pick that up with regard to shift work and how they do their operations. But I think that's a conversation with ST. But I think they're going to have plenty of work in the pipeline, and they're going to probably be using all those jobs. So we'll see.
Yeah. And again, Hangar 3, I know, and 4 are the same way, and ST's indicated to us that if Hangar 3 was done today, it will be full today in terms of the line of work with United, UPS, and everybody else. So we know that the demand is there, and that's obviously job one. If we thought there was cooling demand or whether you'd need a hangar, I'm sure ST, well more than us, would be saying, well, what should we do here? So we know that the commercial demand for maintenance, repair, overhaul is there. And so, yeah, if there's ways to accomplish that in terms of still making the numbers work with an abbreviated fourth hangar, then even better. But if given the option of going back for tens of millions of more dollars or having to modify the agreement in some way, we would obviously be choosing the latter.
I guess in the technical terms, is there like design that's happening with the hangars so like it can be expanded in the future to the same size, or is that not possible?
Yeah, I'd have to have Matt answer that.
The hangar itself is organic in the sense it's designed and will be built for that size. Now, for future development, obviously, there is a little bit of land up there. If they were to grow that, potentially you could expand the building further on. But right now, we have what we have, and we're going to build the best we can and give them all the tools necessary to meet their production requirements.
And then, have you had conversations with Triumph at all about scaling back the?
Yeah, no, because we really haven't had to. Obviously, we had conversations with ST. We all saw the numbers, and we all know that when you're talking about hangar 3.5 being the rest of the balance of what we have remaining in the funding, then we know it's probably a $30-40 million shortfall conversation. A conversation on that hasn't been necessary yet, but obviously Triumph is aware of this situation. ST is aware of this situation. So I think, as Matt said, we're just trying to do the best we can with the funding that we have currently. And if we can make the job count work in 3.5 hangars instead of 4 hangars, then certainly then that's the best case scenario where we're not going back and having to fund anything. But to Matt's point, we haven't found ourselves in a situation where we need to necessarily, that we understand that we need to ask for anything yet from those funders on the direction that we're going. We eventually may need to have a conversation, but we keep all of our partners aware of what's going on. I mean, there's no surprises here in terms of where we are, and then here's our situation. 8-10 year plus cost estimates that now don't pencil the same way, and let's do the best that we can. So I think that's where we are now.
On the airport, it's completely unrelated to ST, but I think I saw on the city council agenda this week, and I might be wrong, is there an item for changing the bond resolution to go for the terminal expansion? They saw a $100 million.
There is. If Matt and Ken would be much more qualified to give you the T's and I's on that, but what I can tell you is it's just another step in our normal bond procurement process. It's not the last step, but when we looked at the first timeline of bonding, it's about a year process with many of these steps. So we'll get you, and if Ken and Matt or Laura at the airport can get you as much specificity as you want in terms of what that is. In terms of the overall project, it's just another logistical step in getting to bond the money for the airport terminal.
And is that the figure y'all going to bond, $100 million for the terminal?
That's correct. Now, there's still some unknowns out there with regard to funding in the future. For example, the FAA gives us money through the airport terminal program. Last year, we have $4 million coming in from them. There's another year in that program, so we're going to apply for that. We're going to apply for future funding, whether through FDOT, and there's some other financing tools we're going to look at. Bonding is what we go towards last to fund the rest of the project. So we're currently going at 100 million, but roughly, we don't know if we'll use all that or we'll use it for other capital programs and the modernization of the airport, but it gives us a lot of flexibility.
And on the advocacy side, we're certainly appreciative of our federal partners that since I've been here, we've been fighting to get into that terminal grant program. And like many federal funding sources, kind of the first money is the hardest, whether it's at the state or federal. And so it's a big step to get that $4 million on the federal side, not just for the $4 million itself, but it's kind of the validation and recognition that this is an important project from the federal government. So it certainly makes this conversation in year 2 a lot easier to go back to them and say, hey, you've given us $4 million. Can you continue to help contribute? And so, myself and our lobbyists up there and Matt and all his team will be continuing to advocate for that. And the more that we can get funded federally or at the state level, so we're at $9 million so far, I believe, between the state and Fed, then the less we'll have to bond, as you're saying. That kind of becomes the last money in.
What's the current estimate of that project?
From a timeline standpoint or money?
The money standpoint, what's the total?
So we're currently just approaching 30%. So to put an actual number on that would be difficult, but we expect right around 100 million. And that could change, as design goes on, we're going to have to go through the process of the design, value engineering to get it in budget, whether we need to, or have other options to, for future modernization of what we currently have too, so.
And is the timeline still, we are thinking 2027?
Correct. So we're looking, the project's going to be phased, and we're going to start with the security checkpoint. We're looking to start that late summer this year, early fall, with a groundbreaking there. And once we complete the security checkpoint, the project will move further to the southwest with the new concourse.
And 30% design, obviously, is where we are now. And so, and part of the funding stack has allowed us, phasing that has helped our conversation in terms of state and federal funding, meaning instead of just collecting funds and then waiting for a longer construction, it'll just be a longer timeline of construction because it'll be phased the way Matt was saying. So the first thing a customer will probably see is work happening in the airport terminal, in the TSA area, and then that will continue to expand as the project moves forward.
I guess just my
Yeah, exactly. Fire away. Keep going.
On the SunTrail grant, so I'm good on the airport stuff.
Thanks, Matt.
On the SunTrail grant, so that area also includes the hashtag project. Is that are y'all going to incorporate?
Yes and no. So we were very mindful before we put the SunTrail grant in about the potential for hashtag. And the thing we have to balance is what can and cannot be funded in SunTrail. And I'll just give an example. On the Bayfront side, new lighting that will have to go in, I think our lighting along Main Street at the port is subpar, to put it nicely, and that's a state road. Well, when we go in to put a SunTrail in, we'll probably be putting new lighting in. Well, new lighting can't be covered by the SunTrail funding. It's got to be covered somewhere else, whether that's us, whether that's FDOT, and so we have to talk with them about those things. So there's certain modifications, moving the road, for example, well, that can be funded, because if you have to move the road to the north to create the SunTrail to the south. So there's qualified and unqualified expenses with this SunTrail funding. So with the hashtag, whether we designate the SunTrail to go along Main Street, sure, that could probably help offset some costs, but not everything. So that's what we're considering, or the conversation of, does the SunTrail go down to Cedar Street? Remember, the hashtag project for now several years has called for Cedar Street to be a pedestrian first road. Does it make more sense to bring the SunTrail itself to Main, down Cedar, and then up? We haven't had to have that conversation yet because the Bayfront portion kind of ends at Tarragona. So we will broach that conversation in terms of design, is where is the right place to designate the Sun Trail, and what can it help us offset and what can it not help us offset. So there's just lots of rules for us to navigate through about where the best place to be is. But what I can tell you is the design of the Sun Trail from the port to Bayou Chico will be in concert with the intent and spirit of the hashtag. That whatever the right thing to do is in terms of those working together, all of those conversations, all of that data is at the table.
And then there's another item on the agenda about a defense infrastructure grant for, I forget the exact amount, but it's purchase land for affordable housing.
Yes, yeah. Very excited for that. That was about a $600,000 grant that allows the City of Pensacola to purchase funding for military housing. And so we can purchase land with that. It's a pretty flexible grant in that sense. I think we have about a 20% match, so we put up 120 and then we get 600. So basically in our pocket to deal with the most significant issue that every mayor is dealing with, which is housing. And we're a city that has 60,000 sailors rotating through each year, 24,000 at a time. And when you're a young military member coming to Pensacola to learn how to work on a plane, your current salary does meet 70% AMI, 80% AMI. So if we want our military members, our active duty, to be able to live anywhere near the NAS Pensacola, then which obviously has its own benefits, then we need to be able to provide something. So this is a big shout out to Erica, Economic Development, Joelle, and grants. This is just one of the perfect example of why we have this grants infrastructure. This is one that came across our desk and said, why not us? And applied for it and got it. So we basically just earned $600,000 to be able to buy property to really throw into some kind of partnership with someone to create military housing. So very, very excited for that.
Do you all have an idea of what that will be yet exactly?
No, it's not tied, unlike some of the other grants that are tied to specific properties. That isn't the case with this. This is it's really unique in that lots of times, especially the federal grant level, becomes pretty monotonous with rules and regulations and what you have to do. This is kind of a breath of fresh air. This one's got a much more flexibility, which I think makes sense. If you're giving money to say, hey, go buy property to build active duty military housing, to say, well, it must be at this address. I mean, what if there's pollution underneath? What if it would really tie our hands. So not only am I appreciative that we've got the flexibility to be opportunistic. So, for example, if someone approached us tomorrow in the affordable housing space and said, "Hey, we specialize in military housing. We want to partner with you. We've got a $720,000 subsidy chip to play to make that a reality," and we know all affordable housing needs a subsidy, all of it, 100%. So I'm very excited to have now in our pocket the ability to subsidize without the taxpayer having to do it here. Because we won this grant to be able to subsidize some military housing. So more to come on that, but we are not tied to a specific property, a specific zip code, any of that. Obviously, it will take place in the city, but the grant affords us a lot of flexibility, which I'm appreciative of.
One last thing, the Baptist hospital donation agreement's also on the agenda.
Yes.
Just looking through that, and so it looks as if it all goes to plan under the agreement, the city will close on the property on June 1st. Is that right? Is that?
Yep.
Baptist is committed to the city the money from the Paces sale and another $3 million.
Yeah, Pace's sale less closing costs, which were about $80,000 or so, and then yes, the other $3 million. And that $3 million, I know from their board, is contingent upon the $2 million from the county. But there's nothing. We are not waiting on the county's decision on this because it still is it's a contingency of this deal. and that we have the ability, if we don't have the funding, to pivot out of it. So it is still a crucial part of it. We still expect that we'll need the full $2 million to be able to make this project happen, regardless of the outcome of the bid protest. In every scenario that could be played out in a bid protest, 100% of those scenarios, we would need the full funding. So certainly, we would appreciate and look forward to that conversation with the county. But we don't need to wait on that decision to come to finality to go ahead and get this agreement, in writing. And so the plan would be June 1st. I believe there's some extensions to close, and those are really just based around the same normal process. If you've bought a house or a piece of property, there's all the logistics that you have to do, and so we certainly wouldn't want to back ourselves into a corner. So our intent, it would not be to use extensions, especially if we have a bid that's on the table that's going to have an expiration date on it. We would have no reason that we would want to extend it, but we just have those in there in case something unforeseen happens. But I'm excited to have that coming forward. I mean, it's been a long time coming. We've been talking about this a long time. This donation agreement, about funding it. And, I do believe we're on the precipice of uncharted territory as it comes to a hospital closing when it did, a public-private partnership coming to place that includes the state, the county, the city, Baptist Hospital, federal grant funding with HUD CDBG, lots of different people, different organizations coming to the table to potentially demolish a 50-acre hospital in the middle of a neighborhood in the city of Pensacola. Again, you name a city, and I can probably give you a hospital that's been there for 10, 15, 20 years that only adds to blight, and I think sends a message to those surrounding neighborhoods that you don't matter. And so us all messaging together that this neighborhood and this region and this community is important, and that we're able to, in a matter of 2 years, not get funded and knock down a hospital, coming back with housing and educational opportunities and all of these things that we've been talking about. I'm certainly excited to be where we are right now, and that we have the commitment of all of these different groups to make this happen. And I don't take for granted how difficult this has been on our staff, on trying to bring everybody around this aligned vision. But that's why we did this to begin with. Is this the city's job by itself? No. But we all stepped up and to make this happen. And the end result is we're a better community for it. We're a safer community for it. And we do tell people in our city and in the surrounding neighborhood that what happens in their neighborhood matters. And so that I'm appreciative for everybody getting us to this place, all of our team at the city, all of our partners, and that we might be talking about. I haven't put it into AI yet, but if there's been a faster public-private partnership of a hospital of this size that was not knocked down by the hospital itself or by the city itself, that it was truly a partnership in this way, both financially and philosophically. If there's been one faster, I don't know about it. And so I'm proud of that, and proud to be leading the city during what I believe will be a multi-generational project. So very, very excited for that opportunity to make this happen. And this is really that first tangible step. We have that agreement in place with Baptist, and then work with the county on the final part of the proposed funding stack and get going.
The agreement had well, first off, do you know how many acres it is that the city's going to?
Don't hold me to it, but it's about 38. It's 50 for the entire campus, of course, 12 acres for PACES, for the two PACES projects.
There was a provision in the agreement, and I just read it real quickly this morning, but it looked like it was an item where the city gets the right of first offer on any land that Baptist has within 1 mile, I think.
Yep.
So can you explain that? Why that?
Yeah, absolutely. So yes, I don't know if it's a mile or half a mile. You'd have to, I'd trust your eyes. Whatever it said in there is, I'm sure what it is. But the why behind that was Baptist is keeping some of their property, especially along East Street. There's some certain offices that'll still be operating. So there's some parcels outlying parcels kind of that they are keeping and are keeping in operation. And my argument, which I think I certainly appreciate their understanding and collaboration with, was if the city is going to have blood, sweat, and tears and years of time and investment making this a reality, making this multi-generational project a reality, it would seem to be sensible to me that the city would have the ability, if there was other property that would eventually go up for sale that could further accentuate this effort, that we would have a bite at the apple. And not just that there'd be all this investment that happens on these 50 acres, and then Baptist keeps these properties across the street, and then they go to the highest bidder, in the private market after seeing the appreciation of value because of all of our work. I think it's fair to the community that says, hey, we've put up funding to help knock this hospital down. The state has helped put up funding. We should have the capability that if there's other land that comes available in and around this area, that we have a bite at the apple, that we have a chance to include that as part of this revitalization. So that's the why behind it, and certainly they were very understanding of that, and that, hey, keep operating it. If Baptist keeps owning it, they can keep owning it forever, but if they want to sell it or they wanted to get out of that property, that we just didn't read about it because there was a sign in the yard, we were part of that conversation and seeing if it's something that could further this huge project.
And then do you know when you'll have discussions with the county commission on?
Yeah, we're trading emails back and forth. Obviously, the bid protest has, slowed things down a bit, and because we're trying to strike the balance of, we want to be as candid financially and answer all the county commission and the county staff's questions about what will this cost, what will contingency be, all of those things. We want to answer that and be able to answer that publicly, but if a bid protest is going on, we've got to mind the store first and let that play out before we can, I think it would be unfair to the current number one and the bid protester. It would be unfair to go have a conversation in BOCC chambers about what something's going to cost when we don't 100% know exactly which direction it's going to go. So it's stunted our timeline a little bit, and but we just felt like we got this close. We knew the donation agreement was coming. Why would we go have a meeting in public without being able to share or convey all of that information? We're at the 1 yard line here. Let's just get everything in order so we can have that conversation that the county commission deserves to have. If they want to know what this costs and where's concrete going to be crushed and all those things, we want to be able to answer those things candidly and not give off the impression that we're somehow being evasive. Of course we aren't. This is all public record anyway, but we want to make sure that we can come to the dais with all the information, all the questions that they want to have answered, not just rush up there and not be able to tell the full story because of other things going on. So any delay to the county commission at this point it has been prescribed by us. It's not them, but we'll see when it ends up on an agenda. I would love for it to be on that first week in May, but we just don't know yet. And that'll probably be a weekly update with you guys, in terms of from here, in terms of how the bid protest. We expect something to be tangibly moving on the bid protest this week, one way or the other. So I should have more answers for you next week.
And I guess first up, I know that y'all got a notification of the bid protest. Has one actually been filed, or is that
Yes.
what y'all are waiting for?
Yeah. So one has been filed, and we're obviously looking into the merits and the substance of that, and whether there's validity to it, as we always do in a bid protest in this situation.
Do you know if assuming that process takes the longest amount of time we can take, how long of a delay would that be?
I don't know yet, and don't presume that means it's a long time. I don't know yet. I would want Adam to be able to answer exactly long. No one has indicated to me that it automatically requires some lengthy process, and I'm sure they haven't, because it all depends on what it is. If the protest is cut and dry, maybe it's shorter. If it's more vague, maybe it's longer. I couldn't answer that knowledgeably at this point, other than I do expect us to have some feedback and understanding and position on the protest at some point this week, and then that will feed the answer to your question, which is, once we know the substance of it, we'll probably have a much clearer understanding of how long. Yeah.
While you were mentioning one former hospital, I noticed we discussed a few times. I don't know if this is in your, if it's in the city or not. The old Palafox Hospital.
Yes.
Obviously, I had drove by it just on the way here, and there was more glass broken out of the building. Is there any status to that? I know that's probably a bigger eyesore than probably what Baptist looks like
Yeah.
right now. Any status on?
Yeah, you know, I tell this story. My first house I lived in when I moved back from college was 1205 North Palafox Street, and so the same thing you just described is what I saw, and that was in 2007. You know, it felt like whether it was the current owners or previous, you know, this has been a thorn in our side in commercial property, probably the biggest in our city. How much time and resources and phone calls our police department takes because they see someone on the roof. The fact that there's, you know, I think $60,000+ in code enforcement fines and counting. So this is an absolute blight on that neighborhood, on our community, and it's a blight on an area that we're about to invest $40+ million in. So what I can say right now is for the first time in many years, we've been in direct conversations with the owners. These are owners from out of state, and we hope to have a resolution to years and years of blight very, very soon. I can't get into full details yet because we just don't know them, but we are in direct conversation with them about trying to end the years-long blight to our neighborhood, to our city. All right. Anything else? That's it?
Yes.
Yeah, come on. You want to ask Jay a couple questions? Sure, come on.
Question for Jeff.
Has he found anything yet? That
Just where I hide it.
just when you hide
Our
it. That's
explosive
good.
Dog, so pretty happy not to. Come here, bud. Sit. Sit.
Want to take a photo?
Sit. Focus.
It's like, what's he looking at?
Good boy.
So where will he be?
Yeah, we're assigned at the airport, so we roam around the whole place.
The whole place.
Checking, yeah. Yeah, he is their explosive dog, so he's. And then we get called out time to time. We did the governor's press conference last week, so that was his first deployment. That went well.
All right, awesome.
So he's already been in service. How long has he been?
Okay.
He has been at the airport for the last 2 weeks. We've done the governor's press conference we did this week for them. Last week, that was his first actual deployment for a political event anyway.
About how many does he add to the staff?
In total, I think we have 9 at the police department. 9 canines, 4 of them are single purpose, I believe, and 5 of them are dual purpose.
So obviously, it's not just the airport that he's used at other places as well.
Yes, sir. We've done call outs for schools, courthouses, over the years. So yeah, I'm sure we'll get called out again.
He's very busy at the airport. He adds a great sense of security and safety to the airport, and he's just great to have on the team.
To go around and terminal in.
He does.
Yes, sir. Yeah. We do the ramp, the terminals, everything.
And there's plenty of real-life times where we've employed not only K9 Jet, but K9 Mia beforehand. And, you know, anytime in baggage, security screening, they get something that's questionable, we employ the K9s down there and just to make sure that everything's safe and secure.
He seems really friendly, and I guess a lot of kids come up to him during the airport. Like, can you touch him? Can you pet him?
We try and limit that to the staff. Sometimes we do let the children pet him. He's still very much a puppy. He plays pretty rough, so we try to be cautious.
I'm noticing a pattern of his attention.
Yes, he is very, very friendly. never buy anything.
Actually, Dominic, can we get a photo quick? Is that all right?
Picture?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Y'all come on up. Airport folks, come on up. Y'all want to come up? Y'all came all this way, let's get a photo.